New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you.
I am so glad that the system gives you visual cues to remind you to unmute your microphone. Tracy Brown. Hey, everybody. Tracy Brown here. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of Inclusive Church. And we are here every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time. So tell your friends, or people who may not be your friends, but who you know are committed to creating inclusive spiritual communities. I am so happy that this month of February in 2026, that we are focusing on some of the ancient African philosophies and or culture, and how that history has come through to today, and how it aligns with so many of the things that we teach in New Thought. And I love the reminder that when we say ancient wisdom, New Thought, we are not saying that we have any new information. Universal spiritual principles are universal, eternal, timeless. We may have a new thought about how to apply them, or a new idea about how to teach them, but these principles have existed for a really, really long time. At least I think eternally is a long time. So I do want to always do two things. One, be very clear that the reason that we say inclusive church is because it is a conscious intention to shift the belief that church is a piece of property or a building and switch that to a focus on church as the people who are gathering together to learn, practice, teach, and live their lives based on spiritual principles. And then two, you may hear me say leader. And when I say leader in a church or leader in a spiritual community, I'm not limiting the definition of leader to minister. I do hope that all ministers are leaders, but we know that a single minister cannot do all that needs to be done to lead a community to being inclusive. Now, for this month, where we're looking at 4 ancient African cultures and how they align with New Thought philosophy, I'm not saying that New Thought comes directly from any one of these philosophies. What I am saying is that it's past time for us to explore the demonstration of alignment between these ancient philosophies and the philosophy that we are living today. And because it's Black History Month, I chose 4 African ancient traditions and philosophies. In week 1, we looked at Kemet, or ancient Egyptian philosophy, and focused specifically on one aspect of it, Ma'at. And in week 2, we looked at Yoruba and the Yoruban philosophy, the philosophy of Yoruba. And then in week 3, we looked at and talked a little bit about Akan culture and philosophy. So this week, we're going to go further south into Africa, and we're going to look at the philosophy of Ubuntu. And in the southern part of Africa, Ubuntu shows up in actually several cultures. And the primary teaching of Ubuntu is I am because we are. I am because we are. So there's a real focus on community, yes, but the responsibility of being and recognizing community and the responsibility to rise together. Okay, so Ubuntu, which is just kind of fun to say, Ubuntu, is more popular now than it was 20 or 25 years ago when it was mostly unknown in the Western cultures. But during the race and reconciliation hearings and after that happened in South Africa, many people learned that a foundational part of those hearings and of the philosophy that Mandela and Bishop Desmond Tutu were grounding their actions on was based on this principle of Ubuntu. I am because you are, or because we are. Another key principle that comes up under Ubuntu is that that when we are demonstrating mutual care for one another, it is not charity. I am not coming to save you because I have more. I am not taking care of you because you have you're in a poor or a challenging situation and I'm better than you or I have more than you. And because of that, I'm really just being charitable. it really is a metaphysical exchange, because if we believe in oneness and if we believe that everyone and everything is part of one, then almost to the point of the reason I have what I have is to be able to share it with you. And your success is my success. Your survival is important to me because we are all of one accord, one being. So there is no private good in Ubuntu. I am doing well, and it's my responsibility to take care of myself, to take care of my family, but also to look around and see who else can I be supporting, who else can I be providing resources for. Um, and so there's no private good. When you're thinking about Ubuntu, it's really the mindset and the heart set that we are all here to support one another. Ubuntu. If I really believe that I am because we are all one, then the way that I take up unity is different. The spiritual principle of unity, I take that up differently. It is not something extra that I do. It is simply the way that I am to be, to make sure that you have and that others have what they need. And the mindset of we rise together or not at all is really something that represents the commitment to Ubuntu. Right? It's not, if there's much less of an individual focus. Now, it is true that people who are in leadership roles in the southern part of Africa, where Ubuntu is really just so woven into the culture, it is the mindset, it is the norm. Yes, people have different roles and different responsibilities with their employment or with their families or in their communities. And so it doesn't mean everybody has everything. It means that if I am doing my job, whatever that is, I'm being a really great mom, or I am the president of the country, it matters not what the responsibility is. I have the responsibility, which means, I have the skills or I have the education or I have whatever I needed to have to be in this role. But I am not just an individual out here in the world. And so I'm rising in my profession or in my vocation, and I am committed to you rising in your profession or your vocation or avocation or your hobby or your desire. And so it doesn't mean that I give you everything I have and we all have exactly the same thing. And I kind of, well, I do smile when I think about that, because it never occurred to me that that's what it meant until someone said to me, well, I don't think I want to know more about Ubuntu if it means I have to give up everything that I have so that you can have everything that I have. And and I had to think about that for a minute or a week. And then I finally realized, well, yeah, if I only heard that from the context of the capitalism and the stated value on individualism that is prevalent in the US and in specifically and in Western Hemisphere in general, then if I've been trained to think in a binary manner, it's either A or B, then, I could hear Ubuntu as, I only exist because we exist. I am here because we are here. I am me because we are we and you are you. Then it and that I'm responsible for. There's no private good. There's an individual responsibility to help the whole. Then if I can only think binary, it's like all or nothing. It's A or Z. Then I could imagine it could be interpreted that way in error. That it would be saying everybody has to have the same thing. And that's not what Ubuntu is. Ubuntu is that spiritual principle that of oneness. And if I believe in oneness and that everyone has been created with value and worth, and that I am a part of that whole, then I am going to be concerned about that whole. So the idea of love, spiritual love in the context of Ubuntu, also requires some conscious attention and focus. And that it is not just the romantic love or the love of my family, but it is love of all humanity. Actually, it is love of all that has been created by the one God, the one source of all life. And that again is very similar to what we teach in New Thought. So in New Thought, we say, I'm going to do maybe 3 or 4 direct comparisons. In New Thought, we say, the good I claim for myself blesses the whole. The good I claim for myself, we teach there's an infinite amount of good. And the good I claim for myself blesses everyone because I am tapping into the good, being that good, sharing that good, demonstrating that good. And that basically aligns with and serves the whole, all of us. And if we look at the trajectory of or the pattern of behavior of Africans in the Americas over the past couple of centuries, there has been a cultural pattern overall of when I rise, we all rise. Now, I remember being very young and I got that lesson in both the positive and the punitive. So I got it as it's important, Tracy, for you to succeed because you are succeeding on behalf of all African Americans. And so it is that when I rise, we all rise. When I rise, I am representing everyone in my racial identity group. I mean, I got that when I was growing up on the, and mostly that was presented on the positive side of your generation. Every generation, has gotten that. Your generation is going to take all of us to the next level, whatever that might be. But I also got it on the negative side as well, some. And I would say probably an 80-20 split. 80% was on the positive, encouraging, go out and do great things, go be marvelous, go break barriers because you are representing the whole. But about 20% of the time, it was the negative, like, don't do these things in public because it will be a negative reflection on the whole. So throughout, there's been that that idea of Ubuntu, right? I am because of you, and we are one. Another example that we might pull out is related to Ubuntu. I take responsibility for related to New Thought we teach. I take responsibility for the consciousness I contribute, for the consciousness I have that co-creates my own individual life, but also the consciousness that I contribute into the collective. And I remember growing up being heavily influenced by the Black community, hearing people say, well, I know what I bring, or I know I'm responsible for me, and I can't control what other people think or the stories they made up. And some of you may have heard me say, a book that I used that I wrote, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe more. But I was in a conversation, and what came out of my mouth was, I don't have to know who you are to be who I am. Like, I am not going to be defined by your story about me. I am not going to be defined by your low standards. And I don't have to know everything about you, because no matter who you are and no matter what you think of me, I am responsible for showing up in alignment with what I believe, what I've been taught, what I teach, what I practice. And that is very much something that in the Black community had to be taught. I maybe not so much now, but it had to be taught for centuries, because the societal definitions were so negative. And it had to be taught that you had to know from the inside out who you are, what values you represent and carry and believe in, and how to let that guide your behavior, regardless of who you were in communication with or who you were being directed by. So that taking responsibility for your own consciousness and then using it to contribute is very much a new thought message, but it existed in ancient African concepts and has carried through all the generations since then. Let's do one more. So in New Thought, we teach that love that is expressed consciously transforms the experience. Right? The energy of love can change the world. The conscious and intentional application of love can shift condition. And in the context of Ubuntu, where we are all in this together, where there is true oneness, there is an alignment there with behaving from love to transform the experience. And in the Black community, that has happened, decade after decade after decade. I show up with love, and that changes things. I show up with guided by love, by the lessons of Jesus, by the spiritual truth, however it was named or called out, as a way both of survival and of resistance and of revolution. Evolution, revolution, whichever one you prefer, right? If historically in the Americas, if Black people weren't grounded in this love, this kind of love that we talk about from a spiritual value point of view, there would have been a lot more violence. I mean, there's been plenty of violence, but there would be a lot more. And this really does connect with the previous one of, I know who I am and how I am called to behave. And so even if you are doing things that harm me, I am still going to come from love. Martin Luther King came from love. didn't mean he didn't fight for a change, but he did it grounded, he and all the people who were around him, leading the civil rights movement in the US in the 1960s, were grounded in love. And let me just add here that love is not always soft and sweet and, pastel. Love is fierce. Love can be very fierce and focused, but it is what is underneath that fierceness and that focus. Love for humanity, love for moving forward, love for changing the conditions that are unfair or that are harming people. So Ubuntu is really kind of, in my opinion, unity on steroids. Not unity church, the concept, the spiritual principle of unity on steroids. Ubuntu is that philosophy, that commitment, that because there is nothing that because there's nothing that can separate me from that which created me, there's nothing that can separate you, but we've been created by the same source. So we have such a dynamic connection that cannot be severed because we are connected at our source, that I must care about you. I must contribute to your good. I must be ready to step in to help you. That is what unity is about. And that is what Ubuntu is about. We are in this together for real, for real. And there is no escape, and there is no excuse for ignoring you or your condition or what is happening to you, especially if there is something direct and tangible that I can contribute to your greater good. This month, we have been looking at 4 different ancient African wisdom philosophies and just pulling something out and then building a bridge between that ancient way of thinking, living, and believing and our current way of utilizing new thought as our personal guides in the 21st century. And considering how, even though there may not be a direct step-by-step link, that there have been many lessons that have been carried by African Americans or Africans in the Americas that really have brought some of these and demonstrated many of these principles over the years. I hope that there's been at least one idea today or in the 4 weeks that has caught your attention and maybe even inspired you, that you will go do a little of your own research about Kemet, about Yoruba, about Akan, or about Ubuntu. February is coming to an end. I hope that you are seeing the Black History moments right here on the New Thought Media Network. If you've missed them, then I invite you to do a quick search after today's show and just put in Black History moments in right here on the network, and then check out a few of them. We've highlighted people who are of African descent in New Thought who made a contribution to the teaching and practice of these philosophies. My name is Tracy Brown. I really hope you'll join me next week and every Tuesday for the Inclusive Church right here on the New Thought Media Network. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching The Inclusive Church with Tracy Brown. Join us again next week at 12 noon Mountain Time.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.